to LinkedIn for Economic Development. LinkedIn is now an important internet platform for economic developers to engage businesses, discover site selection opportunities, and network with colleagues. We are fortunate to have 3 experts in social media and economic development join us today to share how to maximize your success using LinkedIn. Janet Fritz is Director of Marketing for the Metro Denver EDC and directs all marketing and public relations strategies, including national marketing and advertising, social media integration, promotional materials, trade shows, and special event coordination, development of new technology products, and strategy creation for the metrodenver.org, metrodenvergis.org, and affiliate websites. She has 18 years of experience in marketing, public relations, communications management, having previously worked as marketing director at Jefferson Economic Council in Golden and as a communications specialist for the public relations marketing department of Rapid City Regional Hospital in South Dakota, her native state. Anatolia Ubalde is CEO of GIS Planning Inc., an economic development internet service company, and ZoomProspector.com, an online site selection service. His company's strategies are currently implemented in 43 states and serve the majority of the 100 largest cities in the USA. GIS Planning Zoom Prospector web-based GIS product is the industry standard for site selection websites in economic development. His work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Business Week, Fortune, and the New York Times. Mr. Ubalde is co-author of the new book, Economic Development Online. Before GIS Planning, he worked in local economic development with a focus on downtown revitalization, business attraction, and site selection assistance. Dean Whitaker is President, CEO, and founder of Whitaker Associates, Inc., a business-to-business business intelligence firm specializing in predicting corporate behavior for corporate, government, real estate owners, agents, and economic development clients. Dean previously worked as the Managing Director of the Illinois Office of Industrial Development, the Director of the Center for Entrepreneurial Resources and Applied Research, and the Director of the Indiana Economic Development Academy, both at Ball State University. He formed Whitaker Associates, Inc. in 1987. A frequent lecturer on economic trends and innovation, Dean is a certified economic developer by the International Economic Development Council. I will now turn the mic over to Anatolia.
Just to get a sense of where we're all at, we're opening up the first poll. So here are the results, which is that 87% of you have a LinkedIn profile, 10% don't have a LinkedIn profile, and 7% have a 100% complete profile, and we'll talk about what it is to have a 100% complete profile. One of the things that's important to understand with networks and social media is a concept called Metcalfe's law, which is that the value of a network is proportional to the square of the number of users of the system. What this means generally is that the more people who are part of a network, the more people who are on LinkedIn, the more there will be value because there's more people to communicate with and there are improved ways of communicating through the network. Each of us who is in social networks has our own social graph. This is an example of somebody who has a social graph, and you can see it clusters in different areas. Some people were connected through perhaps where we went to school or our friendships, others through our working environments, or perhaps others through philanthropic or nonprofit organizations. I'll ask you another question just to get a sense about who you think is on LinkedIn. Give it a couple seconds and we'll close it. So here are the results. 11% think that it's at 40%, 69% who think it's at 70%, and 20% that think it's at 100%. I will show you the results in just a bit. The first thing to know as we're trying to reach businesses is that our customers, these businesses, these executives, expect us to join the conversation. And LinkedIn actually has 100%. Executive members from all Fortune 500 companies are on LinkedIn. And 85% of users of social media believe companies should interact with them through social media. So a little bit of background on LinkedIn. LinkedIn launched in 2003. This year, it had its IPO, which has gotten a lot of attention. Currently has over 100 million members in over 200 countries. And it has 1 million new members each week, which translates to over 1 new member every second. As I mentioned before, it has executives from all Fortune 500 companies, and the average household income of of people on LinkedIn is $109,000. Also of interest is that 45% of the people who are on LinkedIn are business decision makers. The panelists, we're going to talk about 4 LinkedIn topics. We're going to talk about you as the entrepreneur, your community, your organization, and then you as an economic developer. So I'll start with you as an entrepreneur. Reid Hoffman, I should say CEO of LinkedIn, says, everyone is now an entrepreneur whether they recognize it or not. The people who are on this, listening to this talk, each of you, it is very likely, statistics show, that you are going to have more jobs than the one that you're at right now. So you are in many ways a free agent. You are your own entrepreneur. This is how you may get your next job. And you may get it passively or you may get it proactively. One way is where there is a job and someone who is trying to fill that job looks through all of their connections to identify you, or perhaps they identify that you are a good match on LinkedIn, and then they look through their connections to see who's connected to you so that they can talk to the people that they're linked to get an assessment if you would be a good candidate. The other way, the proactive way, is that you, as an economic developer, may want to work at a certain organization, and then you could identify if there's a job, perhaps that job is even posted on LinkedIn, you could identify which of your connections are linked to the people who are either the executives at that economic development organization or someone who is responsible for that job. So you could have your connections talk to the people that they know to help introduce you and give you a referral into that job. This is my bio and profile on LinkedIn, and you can see there's some basic information. Since so many of you actually have profiles on LinkedIn, I'm not going to get into too much detail about this, except to point out a few things. Certainly this, when you get into the bio, you can see who I'm recently connected to, who my connections are, people that I recommend, a summary of who I am and the places that I've worked. This is really kind of the top level information. And you can also see the people who have viewed my profile, who they've also viewed. Down below it shows the companies that I work for. ZoomProspector.com, I'm on the board of directors of IEDC, and I'm the CEO of GIS Planning. Here, as I mentioned before, are the people who are looking at my profile are also looking at these people's profile, which is not surprising. Many of them are people that I work with, but some of them, like Wayne Scheller, Kenny McDonald, or Jeff Finkel, are people who are outside of GIS planning. Also want to point out to you something that's new for LinkedIn, and I encourage all of you to add this. You'll see there's a new area called skills, and you can see that I have skills in economic development and online marketing and GIS software. If you go into your bio, there's an area where you can add your skills, and this is an important way for you to get discovered as people are looking for people with your skills. LinkedIn has also added new categories. So for example, now they're adding publications, patents, and things like this. This is showing books that I've been author for, my education, and then down below is recommendations. So these are the people who recommend me. So if somebody comes on to my LinkedIn profile, they can see what people I've worked with think of me. And then down below, you can see the groups and associations that I'm a member of and honors and awards. So that's basically the profile. And by filling out all of this information, I was able to get to what's called 100% completeness. And on the right-hand side of your profile, it's telling you you need to fill out more information. Maybe you're at 60% or 70% completeness. One recommendation I'd also like to give is to encourage you to add your picture, because as people are looking at the different profiles or seeing people who are responding to questions, they're deciding, well, I'll just ask you, of these two pictures, which is the one that you trust more? Is it the anonymous person or someone who is real? The more information you add, it improves your connectability. So as you enter where you went to school or where you've worked or what your activities are, you can get more connections because those people will see that there's a chance they're connected to you. And more connections equals an increased probability of being seen. Another strategy for being more visible is to add a custom URL. So the custom URL for my profile is linkedin.com/in/my name, Anatolio Ubalde. That's also going to help you in your search engine ranking. I'll show you that now. So if you have a custom URL, it can give you a better Google rank. If you Google Anatolio Ubalde, you'll see here The fifth result is my LinkedIn profile. So this can help you get found more easily when people are searching for you. Also, encourage you to add links to your websites and your organizations. Another important strategy for your profile is to get and give recommendations. The people that you could get and give these to include former managers, colleagues and coworkers, customers and clients, and business partners. And certainly with business partners, that becomes a good reference if you're working within a targeted industry, because people within that industry may know that person, and their recommendation of you says you're a person that is good to do business with. Also, as you get more recommendations and as you give more recommendations, you'll get more, you'll see them on your certain number of thumbs up, which shows that you're well recommended. One way to get people to your LinkedIn profile is simply to add a link in your email signature. This is my email signature. And so if you click on that link, it takes you into LinkedIn and some of our other social media accounts. While this is not a personal profile, the other profile that's important for you as economic developers is you need to have your company or organizational profile. This is an example for the Lincoln Economic Development Association, and you can see some elements. They have an image, which is the logo of their organization, an overview, and when people show that they're part of that company, it lists who the current employees are, former employees, and even some demographics about the company. The way to add a company is you would go into search under companies, and then you can just click on add company. It takes literally just a few minutes. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Janet to talk about how their community is using LinkedIn.
All right. Well, I'm glad to join this webinar today, and just wanted to give you all a little bit of information about Metro Denver EDC. We are the Regional Economic Development Group for the 9-county Metro Denver region, so we represent 9 counties and 70 communities, and really we operate on a regional economic development standpoint. We cooperate and we basically promote the Metro Denver region first and individual communities second. So just a little context there. I'm going to talk today about our LinkedIn group that we developed. Basically, we developed this group in early 2010, really to expand our social media presence. We were already pretty engaged and active in Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Our CEO has a blog. We put our event photos up on Flickr. But you know, we kept hearing more and more about how LinkedIn was becoming more highly used by economic development groups. In fact, I think quite a few of you may have seen the 2009 poll by DCI and IADC. At that point said that LinkedIn was the top social media tool used by economic development organizations. So we really wanted to get into LinkedIn in a big way as far as creating a group. And our group is called Economic Development in Metro Denver. And we really developed some goals when we created this group. Really, we wanted to engage our current local economic development partners and also our investors at a higher level. We are primarily public or privately funded, so we have about 250 plus investors throughout the Metro Denver region. Those are companies that support our programs and services. So looking to basically get those folks involved in our social media efforts, especially LinkedIn. We wanted to create more awareness of our initiatives, our major industries, and a lot of our marketing activities that we were carrying out to create economic development and prosperity in the region. We also wanted to use our LinkedIn Economic Development Group to expand our local economic development network. Really, we're always looking to engage more companies, especially from a retention effort. So that was another goal. And also, again, to educate our community on the importance of economic development is a key strategy for our LinkedIn group. How we got the word out, I think that's the biggest thing to promoting your group once you develop it. Personally, I sent the link to join the group to all of my current LinkedIn connections. We also shared the news with our economic development partners in the region, that's 70 communities. Our investor base, our current investor base. Also, we included our industry association contacts throughout the region to let them know that this was, basically launched and a great place to learn about economic development, to share news and so forth. And then obviously we also included the information in all of our other marketing outlets, our e-newsletter and our website news center. So when you develop an economic development group in LinkedIn, you just have to think through a few things as far as how open you want your group to be and so forth. This is just an example of a request to join our group, and we basically are an open group as far as we approve anyone that asks to join. They don't have to be in economic development. They can be at a related company or industry. So this is just an example of a request that comes in. And generally we get about 15 requests a week. So it's just important to get back in there and approve those folks so that they can get engaged in your group. And right now we're at about 700, a little over 700 members. So I think that's one of our primary successes, I would say. And I'll caveat, we have had some successes, but I think more challenges with our LinkedIn group. I'll get into the challenges in just a minute. But as far as other successes, we've had some good engagement by what I call the super LinkedIn users that are members of our group. Basically, those are folks that are highly engaged in LinkedIn to begin with, and they really understand how it works and so forth. And we've had great awareness of our economic development related news. And as I flip the slide, I contribute this is through our cross traffic with our Twitter feed. And if all of you haven't done this yet, I highly recommend adjusting your settings so that all of your Twitter posts will come into LinkedIn. It's just a great time saver for one, and then it also just a great cross-platform to get your news out there. Now on the challenge side, I think, with any social media tool, you'll find challenges. I think staffing is one of our key factors. We have 2 people, myself and a marketing specialist, that are responsible for all of our marketing activities. That's updating 4 websites, that's carrying out national public relations launches, that's doing events and so forth. So when we added social media, we did not add staff, but we have added a considerable amount of workload. So keeping up our LinkedIn group as far as generating new conversations and discussions and moderating, it has been a challenge, although we are looking to address this with many strategies upcoming. So I will get into that in a minute. But some of the other challenges we've seen, obviously discussions can kind of be, I guess, maneuvered by 2 or 3 users, people that are really passionate and post often, post quite often. So that has been an issue. Some postings that I guess I would consider sales-based, 10% off if you contact me today. So we're looking at ways to moderate those and discourage that type of posting. And also just the challenge of creating relevant content and discussions, topics. We're looking to create a whole new strategy to do that in a more efficient way. And then also just ways to reach out to new targets, to get new people into our group. Some of our desired people, such as entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and site selectors. So those are just a few of the things that we're looking at. So one of our proactive plans to address some of these issues is we're looking at engaging our most active members and really working with them as basically selected moderators, working with them to, if they agree, to basically really work with us and post on a regular basis. And we're looking at a cross-section of our active users, people in economic development, real estate, companies, people from our targeted industries. So what we're doing is putting together a plan where we would really work with them and talk through some of the best practices in LinkedIn for moderators and posting discussions, work with them on protocols for managing these discussions, brainstorm potential topics, and also then get their commitment to post maybe 1 to 2 discussions per week and actively engage in those discussions. So I feel really good about those plans. I think through a lot of trial and error, we've kind of learned what maybe needs to be done to really make this even a more vibrant avenue for people to learn about economic development in our region. And I also just wanted to mention another strategy that we're using within LinkedIn, and that is actually the LinkedIn advertising option. And on the screen here on the right, you'll see an ad campaign that we ran just recently for our Colorado Clean Tech Initiative. This is a campaign to promote our clean energy industry. That would be wind, solar, smart grid, etc. And we started to look at advertising on LinkedIn because of the ability to target our prospects. You can target by industry, and in this case we were targeting energy. You can target by job title. We were looking at senior manager to C-level executive, and by company. For this particular campaign, we launched it during the Wind Power Show in Anaheim. So we were able to target wind energy businesses. And you can also target by location. We did global since we are carrying out a global campaign. But we actually had really interesting results with this campaign. It was our first time doing an ad campaign on LinkedIn, and we're really, really happy with the results. We carried out this campaign pretty recently, basically May 16th through June 5th, and we had a great click-through rate of 0.19%, which is 40% better than the industry standard of 0.10%. And as far as impressions that the campaign got through LinkedIn, we had 294,358 impressions. And an impression basically is an instance of the ad being displayed on a user's browser. And so we just found that to be a very new and effective way to use LinkedIn. So that concludes my presentation. So I will turn it over to Dean, the next presenter.
Thank you, Janet. That was a great presentation. I'm intrigued to go explore further about targeting by industry, company, and then I was going to ask during the question about targeting individuals. So when we get to the questions, what I'm showing your screen at the moment is the screen for our Walter application. And this application was really designed as a way to help our clients and our company collaborate on the research we do to help them with their business retention targeting as well as their attraction targeting. And so we generate a list of companies for our clients and then put them into this tool. The first area that I wanted to share with you is the mapping feature. So you can actually, this is a map of a Google map, and we map the companies in the list so they can see that these buttons are also active, so you can click on any of these buttons and it will bring up a list of what company that particular push-pin represents. So, but again, the idea behind this tool was a place to collaborate. We do our research in this tool, but most importantly, what I'd like to show you today is an example of how we use this in terms of a special feature we've added. One of the companies I wanted to show you is one called General Atomics. And again, this particular list happens to be companies engaged in the business of making unmanned aerial vehicles. And that's one of the targets that Savannah was interested in. And so we've begun we built this sample list to show them some of the capabilities of what we can do. The profile contains basically the address of the company, their web address, and I'll talk a little more about the LinkedIn profile. We talk about who their parents, their family, phone numbers, and these buttons up here allow you to generate a snapshot of the company. So the overview gives you some information. We talk about the size, where we have it, sales growth information, and also their location and the size of their facility. So this company happens to be in San Diego. And we also have a tab that goes into people, and under the people tab, it gives us the contacts that we're recommending to our clients that they look at for that particular company. So and under events, we talk about targeting companies based on a predictive analytic model that predicts their behavior based on what events are taking place. But the main thing I wanted to point out to you today was the application of LinkedIn to this tool. And so we've added in an ability to target the companies based on LinkedIn. And so this is a way that we can go in and take a look at who the people in that company are and begin to see what our relationships are to the people. And this is just about this particular company. It shows the outline of some of the people in the company, and it will show us our relationships when there is one. And so this is one of the features of this particular tool. And if we can go back to some of the other companies in our list, it will go back and show us a few other examples of some of these companies as we go into this particular company has a little more information, and we can check out their LinkedIn profile, and it shows us the number of people employed. What I have to do right now is sign into my LinkedIn profile so that it will look up my information as I'm adopting, or as I'm going into my profile, so that it knows that I'm LinkedIn. And so now this is what my profile would look like. And now when I go back over to our tracking application, we'll begin to see what my relations are to some of these companies. So let's go back to our list for a second, and we'll go down and take a look at the General Atomics one again. And now when I go into my LinkedIn profile, it shows me that I have 2 connections to people at this company. So it's now taking my LinkedIn profile and showing me what my relationships are to the people at this target company. And so it says I have 2 second-degree connections to people at this company. So kind of put yourselves in the shoes of, you want to contact this company, you don't know who to talk to, and you're in a position of you're in an economic development organization, and you want to know who you can talk to at General Atomics about UAVs, or just to get to know more about the company. Well, this says I have a second-degree connection to Ray. And if I click down here, I can actually see, well, lo and behold, that connection is through Anatalio. When we were putting this presentation together, this was actually an accident. So I didn't do this deliberately, but I just thought it was kind of interesting that it turned out to be Anatalio was my connection to Ray. And so if I wanted an introduction to Ray or a recommendation, I'd go back to Anatalio and say, hey, how about connecting me up with Ray? Well,
And I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, there you go. And one of the things that Anatalio talked about yesterday, well, how are we how is he connected to Ray? Well, it just turns out they both happen to go through the same university. So I just happen to know this about Anatalio, but that he was at the University of California, Berkeley. Well, that's where they became acquainted. If you look at when they went to school, that tells me a little more about Ray and kind of what his history is, and this tells me more about his background and specialties. And again, interestingly enough, there's a whole list of other people who have looked at this profile. We put together this particular tracking tool both for Cincinnati and also for Columbus, Ohio, for the regional group, to help them target for retention. So this tool can be used both ways, and this would show them what their relationships are to the companies they're trying to retain in their community. This shows me what my relationship is to Anatalio to Ray, and so that's how I could make that contact. One other area I wanted to point out, and I think it was done to a certain degree earlier, but this area about what groups that you belong to is very important. And so this tells me a lot about this person because I can see what groups he's joined. And one of the other recommendations I have is to go back and take a look at what organizations you're targeting in terms of recruitment, and be able to look at those and join those groups to learn more about that industry and what some of the attributes are of that, what issues that industry is facing and how you might go about helping them. I'd like to launch 2 polls here just briefly. Okay, if you would care to vote on that poll, we'll take your votes. And so let me then that poll with you, and you can see that 78% have not made contact directly with an organization through using LinkedIn. So that's one of the areas to think about, how you might use LinkedIn to make that connection with someone at a company. And one of the other questions I wanted to ask you to think about is, have you ever used an industry group to be able to tally up the information relative to joining an industry group to learn more about that industry? So if you would care to vote on that issue, we'll see what you think about that question. And we'll wait for a couple minutes for people to vote, interestingly enough. And what you'll see is that 54% of you have joined some of these special industry groups to learn more about the industry. So you're on top of that one, and I commend you for that. But it's a pretty cool way to learn more what's going on in those companies and what they're finding as far as the results from their activities. So that's kind of my quick overview of what's going on with Walter and our application, and I'd be glad to share more of that if anyone cares to contact me. Anatoly, I'm going to switch this back over to you.
Thanks, Dean. So we've covered things that you can do as an entrepreneur. Janet covered what you can do as an organization with the LinkedIn group. Dean talked about also the things that you can do for your community to grow the economy, and also talk now about what you can do as an economic developer to further and help your profession. So I'm going to ask our last of our polls. If you just click, and in 5 seconds I'm going to close the poll. And here are the results. So you can see 28% are not part of any group, 45% are in a few groups, 15% in 5 to 10, 13% more than 10, and none have gotten to the point where you max out on LinkedIn. Actually, there is a limit to how many groups you can join. This is actually very important, and I think based on the advice that Dean's talking about, you can see that there are opportunities for you to directly engage the industries that you're targeting. And you can do this in LinkedIn in a place where there's not a lot of competition from other economic developers. There's basically a LinkedIn group for nearly everything. So sign up for those and start talking to the people who can learn from you. So here's a way that you can join groups related to our profession. If you see on the screen up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a section there where you can type in, and if you're interested in searching for groups on economic development, you just type that in. And these are the 3 largest groups in economic development professionals, economic development leadership, and the International Economic Development Council. The one that's highlighted is that Economic Development Leadership, which is a group that we manage. For anybody who's interested in joining that group, you can go into LinkedIn and just type in Economic Development Leadership, request being part of it, and if you're an economic developer, we'll let you in. This is what you'll see when you become a part of it, or even before you do. This is the summary, and you can see people who are members in your network who are part of it. And this is not just for this group, it's for any group. So there may be other economic developers or peers or people in corporate real estate that are in groups that you want to be a part of, and you can see that. You can also know when it was created, the number of members, and so on. Looking within the group, you can see that these are the discussions that are going on. So for example, one of the most popular discussions was, has anyone developed a webinar to site selectors as opposed to face-to-face meetings in an effort to reduce costs? If so, how was it? And you can see there are 20 economic developers that have responded. The reason that it's important for you to respond within these economic development LinkedIn groups is because it's showing your expertise. And as you show your expertise, the people who are in this group are potentially the people who may want to collaborate with you, they may want to hire you, but it's an opportunity for you to show within our industry your knowledge by helping people. And helping people is, people appreciate it a lot. I don't think there's anybody who's in on this talk who's saying, gosh, I don't like help. So when you help folks, that creates social capital with you within the network. Also, it can make you one of the top influencers. So LinkedIn has built in these kind of game qualities. So you can see that Aaron Elam is the top influencer in terms of the conversations this week. Down below, you can see some of the other conversations. So in this case, Anya saying, put social media to work for economic development. Jim is asking, what type of marketing do you find most effective? And 11 people responded, giving their ideas. Or in this case, someone's asking a question with a link to a presentation saying, are economic developers in sales? All of this information you can participate, engage. This is a way of helping your colleagues and also helping yourself. Because what you personally get from posting and responding is thousands of your peers see your name and your knowledge because LinkedIn emails them each week with that information. I don't mean they email them or they send them that information in your LinkedIn inbox. They send that directly into your regular email account, and so that your name is there and it shows that you are an expert. That's amazingly valuable for you to get your name out and to get credibility within the profession. So with that, we've come full circle. First, you and how you can improve your profile so that you can get found for your next job, how you can promote your community and get your community engaged in discussions, how your organization can use LinkedIn to target specific industries and use advanced tools like the WALT system, and then how you can participate as an economic developer within the economic development communities. And so with that, I will turn it over for questions and answers.
Great, thanks, Anatolio. We have a lot of questions, and this question is for each of you. Approximately how much time do each of you spend on LinkedIn each day or each week?
Well, this is Dean. I'll take a run at that one a bit. I'd say not more than maybe 15 or 20 minutes a day. Not that I shouldn't spend more, but I spend the amount of time that I have. When I've asked some of our staff members how much time they spend on social media, one of them said one day, I spend 2 hours a day, and I gasped and I thought, is that my 2 hours or is that his 2 hours? Because as an employer, I'm thinking, how much time are my employees spending on social media? And then I'm thinking, well, that's probably a good thing because he's out there communicating with people about what we do. So I think it's a very important question to ask, and then the other question many people have is where does the time come from, or where do you take it from? So, but in my case, I spend maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day.
This is Janet. I would guess all told for a week, probably about an hour and a half. Obviously, I think the bulk of what I'm doing now is responding to requests for the group and just for my personal, to LinkedIn. So, but I think that will grow, I think, with some of our plans and so forth. And I think it will be a very good use of time just because of the potential to connect with decision makers and so forth.
I probably spend anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes a day. I spend more when I'm responding to questions or posting information and less when I'm just reviewing what's going on and what other people are talking about. As you decide how much time you should invest for your organization in social media, I encourage you to think about it in terms of your return on investment. You should spend more time, the more success that you can get. And of course, the success may not come immediately. I mean, it could, but you want to spend zero time if you're getting zero results, and you want to spend lots of time if you're getting a lot of success. I think right now there's very poor competition, which is good for those of the economic developers who are using social media and LinkedIn, because not that many economic developers are. I shouldn't say not that many. There's a lot, but considering how many economic developers there are, most aren't utilizing it to its full extent.
Next question, will LinkedIn replace my need to use Facebook and Twitter?
Janet, you talked about kind of integrating some of those strategies. What are your ideas?
My thought is I don't think it will replace either. I think LinkedIn has such a great opportunity as far as getting to know people, their profiles, their skills, and so forth, that I think it's very different from Twitter, which is, a microblog. It's very different from Facebook. So I don't think so. I think LinkedIn is only growing from my perspective.
This is Dean. From what I've seen, I feel like LinkedIn is more of a business tool, and that Facebook, for example, it becomes more of a social, family, friends and family kind of setting. Now, maybe I'm a little old-fashioned because I noticed my 20-something staff members here are pretty much Facebook people, so I think it might be generational in terms of how people use these tools. And I use Twitter basically to share interesting stuff that I find that I think others might find useful.
I don't think that LinkedIn is going to replace your efforts on Facebook and Twitter. It's just a different channel. So in the same way email didn't replace your need to use the phone. And all of these technologies and social media platforms are evolving. Facebook is becoming increasingly more of a presence with business. All the major corporations now have Facebook pages, In fact, I think all of the speakers today all have Facebook pages. But LinkedIn has been, I think, and continues to be a terrific place to engage in industry-specific and business-specific audiences. So I think you have to use multiple platforms to reach multiple audiences.
This next question is for Janet. How many leads did you receive from the campaign, and how much did it cost?
The leads, that's always a tough one. I can tell you directly I know of one lead because a reporter contacted me because she had seen the ad on LinkedIn. But obviously we're tracking the hits and results and so forth, and we got quite a bit of exposure from our overall campaign, which included print advertising, public relations, earned media, our trade show presence and so forth. So it's always tough to say exactly where the leads come from, but I can tell you I know of one direct lead from LinkedIn plus just the results I mentioned. And what was the other question?
Was how much did the campaign cost?
Oh, so that would be just as far as the LinkedIn portion. For the LinkedIn ads, probably about $5,000.
And you mentioned, Janet, the campaign ran for 3 weeks?
Uh-huh.
Okay. The next question is for Dean. Is Mr. Whitaker's LinkedIn tool available to all LinkedIn users, or is this a special feature of the tool he described?
Well, the LinkedIn connection that we use is called an API, so it's an open connection that our programmers built into Walter. And Walter is our tool, which was designed as a way to help our clients in their targeted marketing efforts, whether it be for retention or for attraction. But the ability to use that particular application is available through LinkedIn for free. And so we actually had our programmers take what's called that interface between LinkedIn and connect it to our web designed application that our programmers built for us.
This is a pretty unique thing though, Dean. I mean, it's the first I've ever seen any software where you're taking a traditional economic development function like targeted industries and predictive analytics and databases of leads to reach and integrate it with LinkedIn. I mean, I've never seen anything like that before.
No, nor have I. And so at the moment it might be unique, but I have not seen it in other economic development applications anywhere. I haven't also seen it anywhere else. So I guess maybe it is unique for the moment, but it was just an idea that we had that would help our clients get around the gatekeeper. Because one of the challenges we often have is how do you get through to the decision maker? And so one of the ways to do that is through having credibility of connecting through somebody that you know. And that helps you gain credibility with the company, and often you can ask somebody to give you an email introduction or a phone call and ask them to accept your contact. So to me it was just kind of an obvious thing to do, but maybe not so.
This question is for any of you actually. LinkedIn seems to be an excellent way to connect with others, but is there such a thing as a bad connection via LinkedIn?
I think that's a good question. This is Dean. I've wondered the same thing myself. What I've had, and I use my LinkedIn profile fairly carefully. I try to think about whether or not this connection that I'm making would be helpful to me and to others. So I'm a bit more selective, I guess, and I actually have, I think the term is ignored, but some requests to connect because I didn't have a sense that that particular person would be beneficial to the rest of my network. So part of it is protecting my network. There's another school of thought that says accept everyone and make your network as big as possible. Well, yes and no. My personal feeling is I'd like to make sure the people in my network, A, that I know them, and B, that I wouldn't mind introducing them to people that I know.
The bad connections, if that's what the question is asking, is it's the same type of question you would ask as are there bad friends to have? And probably the answer to that is yes. There's certain people that you wouldn't connect to in real life, and those are probably the same people you don't want to connect to in your social network.
I think I agree with both Dean and Anatolio. I mean, I think you should be thoughtful about how you build your network and if it meets your overall goals and so forth.
Next question. in general, should my economic development group for my community be open or closed? And how can I avoid or discourage sales type posts? I know, Janet, that's something you talked about a little bit.
Well, like I said, our group is open, and it depends again on the goals of your group. One of our primary goals is to educate the community about our goals in economic development, what is economic development, and so forth. So from that standpoint, we feel like it should be open to everybody that has an interest in economic development. The sales-focused emails, we are looking at addressing that, I think, with just direct outreach to the person and just mentioning, kind of like the overall rules of our group and so forth. So hopefully that will resolve those types of posts.
Yeah, there's also two ways of thinking about open groups. So the way that Janet was talking about it, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, so if people are interested in joining your group, you let them in. Is that right?
We do.
So some groups are set up to automatically let people in, and then others are moderated. I would encourage people generally to have a moderated where you accept or not. The other element of something being a group being open or not is whether the information is public. So in some groups, even if you're not a member of the group, you can see all of the conversations that are happening. You can't respond or ask questions until you're in the group, but you can see all of the information publicly. Now, anything that's on the internet at some levels is public, but with the groups that we manage, we've kept them closed in that you can only see the conversations that are going on if you're part of the group. It just adds a layer of privacy and people feeling comfortable within their profession or their interest of being part of something that feels a bit smaller and more intimate. But don't kid yourself, everything is public.
Let's see, I've got a question here of how do I promote my LinkedIn group?
I think a terrific way is to include it in the other communications that you have. So for example, if you have a newsletter or an e-newsletter for the people who are interested in your economic development organization, you can simply include a short article saying that you have the group and what the value will be to people who join it. So they can participate in conversations, they can give ideas about what economic development initiatives the community should be involved in. That's one way. You can also promote it through your email signature. You can promote it through your other social networks. I see a lot of people promoting LinkedIn groups through Twitter and through Facebook. So it can be multi-channel in terms of how to promote the group.
Natalia, this is Dean. Is it considered proper etiquette to promote one group from inside of another group?
Well, I mean, the platforms as big as LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook are, I don't think that they're going to get their feelings hurt if you're promoting one through the other. It just happens. What happens is it tends to be more seamless, if you're going from one platform within the platform. And obviously, LinkedIn is a great place to promote your group.
That's what I was asking, was whether that's the place to do it, because it would seem like you would find people with common interest on LinkedIn and be able to offer that new group to those on LinkedIn already.
And one of the ways to do that is you can add in your update. There's a section in LinkedIn for your profile where you can add information to your update, and you can invite people into the group. Obviously, the people that you're linked into very likely have an interest in the economic development you're doing in your community. And you can also have the other staff in your organization do the same.
That ends our question and answer time, and thanks to all the attendees for attending today.